let's do some blueprint things. Like if you want to get a loan, Lendistry, of course, works with One United. Now, if you have a One United account, you can apply to Lendistry and apply for a small business loan. And they've partnered with One United to make that happen. But what's required? Because I feel like a lot of times we come to get loans and we don't know what the ABC 1, 2, 3, our paperwork's not in place. We were talking about this before. I just had to get a mortgage for something. And it was like, I was ready though. I just done my taxes. So I had my 2 years of taxes. I had all of my balance sheets were tight. I just gone through all of that. And I made sure that even before I applied, like, what do you need to approve this? So that the algorithms aren't going to mess me up in your racism. And I put that at the forefront. I don't want your racism denying me. So tell me what you need to be agnostic, where it's just a checklist. And so I made sure all my pay stubs, my taxes, my bank balances, everything was in place. And I sent it in a timely fashion and it was approved. And I got the best mortgage rate I've ever gotten in my entire life. I felt seen and validated. But I think it's all about preparation though.
Yeah, and on that tip about preparation, let me just take a step back because I want to make sure your team understands this. But so let's break this down a little bit. What do you go to Dunkin' Donuts for? Just tell me.
I don't go there. I'm a Starbucks person, but if I went there, it would be donuts and coffee. Yeah, because I have to be honest.
So donuts and coffee. So how come you don't go there for pizza?
Because it's Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
It says Dunkin' Donuts.
Right. So, and so I want you to actually think about a bank like that. Like, how come you don't go there for a cheeseburger? Because you have some marketing association.
Five Guys is around the corner and they make a better cheeseburger if I'm gonna eat meat, which I don't. Yes.
I know where you had it. But you get my point is that there's no negative marketing that Dunkin' Donuts does, right? Like through some association, you walked in, you looked at the name, you said, okay, they sell donuts and coffee. And what you really want to think about is a bank is like that too. There's some banks that sell donuts and coffee. There's some banks that sell cheeseburgers. There's some banks that sell pizza. And a lot of times what happens in our community, we assume that the word bank is all the same. And so you walk into a bank and you're like, oh, I want a small business loan, but all they do is auto loans. And you're like, well, they didn't tell me that. And I would say to you, well, Dunkin' Donuts didn't tell you they didn't sell cheeseburgers either. Right. Or you walk into a bank and they do home mortgage loans and you went for a small business loan. Or you walk into a bank that does small business lending and they don't do, home mortgage lending. And so I bring that up because we got to make sure we know what we're walking into and who we're walking into and ask those initial questions. That's the first step, because a lot of times we get declined and has nothing to do with us. It simply has to do with the fact that we walked into the wrong institution. So that's number one. Now, when you get to the right institution, so first question is, do you do the type of loan that I want? Small business, real estate, auto, personal, The second question is, what do I need? Which is more the answer to your question. And I'm going to tell you it's two different answers. The first answer is, well, let me give you the one answer you always have to have: ability to repay. Let me make it real simple to you. Rule number one in the bank is pay me back. Rule number two is don't forget rule number one. So no matter what, you got to establish that has been, dictated upon and that you can show that proof. Now, sometimes you're showing that proof because, you got a contract coming up. Sometimes you're showing that proof because of your past history, you mentioned tax returns. And sometimes you're showing that proof because you can't do it, but you brought along somebody who can, which in banking world is typically called a guarantor or property or something like that. But the core answer to your question is, how do you show that ability to repay? And on most loans, not all, it's usually 2 years of tax returns. Now, there are loans that don't require tax returns, but typically they're going to have a higher interest rate because the bank's going to be taking more risk, because you got to remember rule number one or rule number two, right? If you go to an SBA loan, SBA has startup loans, which means you're going to provide personal tax returns of 2 to 3 years, and you're not going to have any business. Or you're going to have a full-fledged business, which basically means you can provide 3 years of tax returns, both personal business. Notice in every single thing I said, personal tax returns came up, because as a small business owner, the personal is the foundation. So you want to make sure you have your personal credit up to date. When we go down to credit scores of 600, some people are no credit scores, some people have higher credit scores, different things like that. The reason why we think that you should have shown the ability to pay someone back. Now, that's what we're looking for. We're going to ask you for bank information. And again, we're looking to see what money is flowing through there. I would encourage all the small business owners to not commingle their money. You know, one of the reasons why we're partnering with One United Bank is we're like, look, at a basic level, you got to have a bank account. Whether One United approves you or not, that has nothing to do with you having a bank account, right? Whether any bank approves you or not, it has nothing to do with you having a bank account. There is money for your personal and there's money for your business.
For your business.
Right.
Let me 866-801-8255. Is it easier for you as a lender to lend to somebody with a 750 credit score than a 600 credit score?
Well, I think there's a lot.
Is it more attractive? Is it more attractive for you?
I would say it's more attractive at the beginning of the process. So at the beginning of every process for a lender, it's going to be a pull of the credit score, but we're also doing other things. We're checking OFAC, Office of Foreign Asset Control, right? We got to make sure you're not on the list, right? The Homeland Security list. We're looking to see what the payment history is. So you can have a 750 credit score and be a kid in college and you only have one credit card. You could have a 600 credit score, went through some trials in life that you can explain, right? You're not going to come up and be like, hey, I just didn't feel like paying Capital One for the last, couple of years. That's not going to go very well, right? Because that means you're not going to pay me. But you have a more substantial income than that kid in college who had the 750. So, I want to be careful with the question because there's a lot more to that credit profile than just the credit score. And lenders like us, mission-based lenders, responsible lenders, we're a community development financial institution. We're looking at a lot more than your credit score. We still want to make sure you can pay us back because we're in the game of lending, right? That's table stakes, you being able to pay us back.
So we have to go to break. I'm going to take a call. We're going to go to break, but I want you to ruminate. I want you to meditate on this question. Okay. If somebody has a great business idea, yeah, would it be more advantageous for that person to wait until they got their taxes? Because a lot of us are looking, we talked about this before, looking for that great refund from the government. So we underestimate on our taxes and we find all of the write-offs we can find. So that number at the end comes back with a refund as opposed to showing profit, which and profit for 2 years, right? Now, if you're somebody that took the refund, did your taxes in such a way that the government gave you money back and you showed a loss, but you now are looking to expand your business, would it be wise for you for the next 2 years to focus on profit and paying taxes to get that $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 loan? When we come back, let's talk about that. Hold that, Everett. I want you to hold it. And I also want to give out the number 866-801-8255. John in Florida has a praise report. Hi. Turn your radio down, please.
Yeah,
turn it down, all the way down. All the way.
It's all the way off.
Okay.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I was financial aid administrator for a college. And I dealt out student loans and Pell Grants and so on and so parental loans and so on and so forth. And I did that for like 10 or 12 years. And I just got kind of bored with it. And not that it wasn't, not the point to where I was helping people to get their funding so they can go to school and be educated. I just didn't like being in the office. So what I started doing is I started doing some side gigs and doing design work because I'm very creative and artistic. And I started doing design and artistic, and I got with a couple contractors down here. And one client led to another, to another, to another, to another, to another, to another. And I started my own business with that. And then I started my other business, where I sell pool filters and pool supplies, and I do drop shipping. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm about to do a drop. I'm about to do a drop for Octavia Butler's birthday next week. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about it next Tuesday, but I'm learning about drops because I want to be in all facets of things. But yes, drop shipment is the bomb, and it's it's so much easier than what I was doing before, which is getting orders in and then packing them and all. You know exactly what you're selling, And you don't have to worry about all of the inventory sticking around, which I have a whole house full of shirts. But John, finish telling us all of the greatness.
Real quick, I want to encourage people to, start something while they're still working, and then develop it to the point to where it becomes something that you really want to enjoy.
I think that's great advice. I think that's excellent advice. And when we come back, Everett Sands is going to give us even more advice, because I need us to start thinking very strategically about everything that we do, and especially business, right? The move has been to go get that round of funding and go in and go get money from VCs and go do this and this and that. But our parents and grandparents and great grandparents built businesses that were profitable, and they were able to, for those of us who had parents and grandparents who were in business, to provide us with lives that, I have no student loan debt as a result of the work that my father did. And he never got around to funding from anybody, and had $500,000 in cash in his safe. I remember it like it was yesterday, because I was like, damn, that's a lot of money in the house next to the gun. All right. Everett with 2 T's, K Sands is here. We're talking money. All right. Walk us through ABC 1, 2, 3. I have a business.
Yep. So the first thing is really to think about timing, right? It's no different than what we just talked about with that stock market, and other investing ideas. And I would always encourage a person to keep their day job as long as you possibly can. There's 2 reasons why I tell you that. One is probably the obvious. It helps you to fund your business in the beginning. And you talked about getting capital from outside sources. Profitability equals equity. And so you want to drive your business to be profitable, because as you drive it towards that profitability, and once it becomes profitable, you get to keep your equity, either because you don't need other people's cash, or because they look at you differently. Because if you walk in a room and you say, hey, I'm struggling right now, I need this money to do my business, what are they going to think? Well, I could get more from this person, right? So that's the one thing. The second thing is that what we've learned, the people who succeed the most in terms of growing their business, in terms of paying us back from lending, are those who have done multiple businesses. Whether they failed or they succeeded, as you mentioned, they learned some life lessons, some business life lessons. And so the reason why I correlate that to staying at your job or your day job while you're building your business, because when you start to become an entrepreneur, you look around the room differently. Oh, how did we actually send out that FedEx? Oh, who's supposed to get the FedEx? Oh, how do we get these pens and papers? Because when you're an employee, you're just like, well, give me the paper. I'm gonna just take, a pen. I'm gonna throw that one to the trash. Then I go get another pen. Next thing you know, you use 1,000 pens in a month because you don't pay for the pens, right? And so when you start to think like an entrepreneur, your focus changes. Your focus not only changes on spending, but it changes on execution. And that's really, really important. And again, as we mentioned in the show, they don't teach you all this stuff in business school. There's not really a book you can read to tell you how to manage people and how to handle things when you got a presentation in 5 minutes, and the technology went out and you got to run to the nearest whatever to get there because it's a big client, or how you manage when traffic is traffic jam, but you got to be on that call and you got to pull over to the side of the road, right? Or every CEO, whether they like it or not, is a capital raiser. There's no capital raising classes in high school and in college, if we're being real. Because you got to learn your pitches, you got to learn your audience, you got to learn how to, when to smile, when not to, how to make people laugh. Sometimes people don't want to laugh, you know what I mean? Just different things. And then the other thing is, if you really have a good business, it becomes good through iterations, through trial and error, through making mistakes, through fumbling the ball, right? No different than anything else in life. The gentleman that had asked the question before, he said he was in the education business beforehand. And just think about education. Before you become a doctor or a lawyer, you got to go through 3 years, 4 years. Guess what? Small business, no different. It takes you 3 to 5 years to get it. and that's for the people who know the industry that they're in. So the first part of the blueprint, to me, is holding on to your current day job as long as you can, right? Literally, I know you don't like your boss. I know you don't like the arrangement. I know you got dreams of taking trips to Greece and flying to the moon with Bezos, but stay steady until you literally break. And then, start the business plan. I generally wasn't a big believer in plans. business plan, strategic plan. I'm more of a numbers guy, so I like to create a forecast or performer. It doesn't really matter to me what your style is. Some of us aren't the best writers. Some of us like numbers. Some of us don't like the best numbers. We like to write. But I would start to say, okay, who needs to be in the room with me? And I would say in the room is two things. We always talk about friends and family as raising capital, but I also think friends and family could help be the board advisors, the board, and the partners. The other thing we do in our business is we like to own the whole thing. I think that's a big mistake. You know, I don't know, I can't remember what the cliche term is, but you know, if you want to go, what is it? If you want to go slow, go at it alone. If you want to go fast, go with others, or something like that. But bottom line is, you should be thinking, and this is the other benefit of staying at your job. Look around and say, what don't I like to do? And whatever you don't like to do, you need a partner for it. You need a board advisor for it. So, you know, I can't draw. I can't even draw stick figures. So I knew I couldn't do no marketing, right? And I know I don't have a creative bone in my body. So I had to get someone who had marketing expertise on the team. I had to get someone I can sell, but I can't market, right? And go ahead.
Now, do they have shares in your company, or are they partnered with you? You know, because when you talk partnership, when you're talking LLC versus S Corp, you know,
Yeah.
you also, though, are putting yourself at the mercy of somebody else's bad habits, right? So if you're a partner, because everybody's tax returns are now part of the loan process, right? And if everybody don't have their money together, then y'all don't go farther together. Maybe the one person with the really good credit. And I think that's where, again, you know, strategy. What's our goal? Okay, you know, you got a 500 credit score and you don't pay your bills well. You can't be on the paperwork.
That's right.
But
That's right.
but you're gonna have to trust that you're a part of this, what we're doing, but you don't have the acumen. And I feel like we don't do this enough. Everett K. Sands is here, 866-801-8255. I see the callers. We're gonna get to them. I feel like we don't have honest conversations with ourselves.
That's right.
If you struggle to manage your own household, I feel as if you probably will also struggle managing your business.
You will.
And you need to be honest. Are you really not that person? Now, there are accountants and business managers and all kinds of people you can have, but you don't have to give them a percentage of your company to come in to help straighten out your books. But learn your books, though, because what you don't want is for somebody to manage your books and you don't know where the money is. So if you're not going to become that expert in money, which everyone should, because it doesn't require a whole lot of acumen to sit and balance and know what goes out, more has to come in, people get paid. I use a bunch of Excel spreadsheets because that's what's easy for me. And I've mastered Excel, so it works for me. But I also have a business person and an accountant, you know, that I deal with every single month. But I know where every dime, every dollar of my business goes and what comes in and what goes out. I look at it about 5 times a day because I'm OCD. But I think you have to be that over the top, because this is your future. Is this really what you want to do?
You have to be obsessed. Now, you have to be obsessed with your business, with your baby, because it is a baby. And you got to be careful, Ms. Hunter. They're going to start to think that you're a lender here. So the way we check to see if your house is in order is the personal credit report. That's why it'll never go outside. The credit score might adjust or might change, but we're always going to look at the credit report because it's the best indicator of house in order. Or we could, I guess, go to your house, but we're not doing that, right? So you know, what's the easiest way to do it is to really look and see what the past history is like. And you know, you brought up a couple points that I just want to hit on. You are going to pay for expertise, and you should pay for expertise. Now, what is that payment? Sometimes it is an equity, and generally it's an equity when you don't have anything else to give. Sometimes it's a fee. So you create a partnership, you say, I'm going to pay you a fee for service. It could be a consultant, it could be a partnership. And sometimes it's kind of like our relationship with One United, where there's an exchange there, there's a trade-off, there's customers. We're looking for small business customers. They're looking for banking relationships, right? So sometimes there's a trade-off because of the two companies' expertise. All I want to encourage people to do is think bigger, because we have a tendency not to think as big as we are capable of, unless it's sports or unless it's entertainment. So I want us to think bigger because we are tremendous spenders, which means we have the direct ability to build wealth easily. Like we already are showing the money is flowing through our own economy, right? and through our wallets and our purses, so to speak. The second thing is, as we're talking about these partnerships, it's easier today, right? There are friends and family, but there's also LinkedIn. There's also business associations. There's sororities. There's fraternities. There's a lot of different ways to get there and to raise your hand. Now, everybody's not going to say yes right away. Number one, they're going to check to see if your house is in order. You already mentioned that, right? So they might not know you. It might take a couple phone calls. It might take a couple requests. But what I want us to do is just to be thinking about it, because the thinking about who we should partner with is also the thinking about who should be on the team when we start hiring team members, right? When we start getting our first employees. And I think that's really, really important for us as we start to build these businesses the right way.
And they should be able to do things, not just you like them. 866 or their cousin, they need a job. Come on, y'all.